All right, welcome back. Black Mirror Season 5, Episode 2 is all about... Jeff, are you... Anyway, so a good synopsis of it. A really good synopsis of the episode is that... Are you guys kidding me right now? Always on your phones, man. You're always just doing your things and you're seeing who's going to text me and whatnot. What if that happened, huh? What if this happened? Yeah, whatever. I'm not even doing this anymore. Smithereens, the best Black Mirror episode I've ever seen. Well, actually, I don't know about that.
Wow.
But I'm going to come right out the gate and give this one an outstanding 10 out of 10. Super seal of Rob approval. Gets a solid 10 out of 10. And why? Well written, amazing, creative, and different story, dark humor, and you also had serious bits that didn't take away from each other. Everything felt natural. The dialogue was amazing between each character. Everything flowed so fluently. It was like a puzzle. If you guys have ever seen the movie Death at a Funeral, if you haven't, go watch it. That's my brain. End of episode. What do you guys think?
I liked it. I was really into it. Very, very gripping. Again, it made me feel for the characters. I was legitimately upset during like the struggle in the car and all that kind of stuff. So really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed the ultra dark humor. Little things, just like, okay, what are the logistics of kidnapping an employee and, oh, it's not a gun, it really is a gun, and then like him arguing and then changing his mind about letting him sit in the car and then him sitting up and then getting caught, like...
Let's digest a little bit of this. So it takes place with this guy, Chris, right? He's essentially like an Uber driver, it seems like.
Yeah.
So he's waiting outside of a main street area, almost like a downtown.
He's waiting outside Smithereens.
Yeah, it turns out he is waiting outside, right? But he's just picking up clients. He's accepting them over there, and he asks them, and it feels uncomfortable at first where he's like, so Smithereen, you work there? And the first person he picks up is a lady, and she's like, no. Like, I wish I worked there. I'm just a grocery store person or whatever. I don't know what she was. She seemed important, though. So it keeps going, and he drops her off, and then one of the next scenes, or a similar scene close to it, well, not close to her, I'm sorry. He drops her off, and then one of the next scenes is he's almost in like an AA meeting of sorts,
like some sort
right?
of like grief counseling.
Self-help, and he meets someone, I don't remember her name. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's the woman that has the daughter who
she
suicide,
she tells the story. She tells a story about how her daughter took her life. She was in college, it seemed, and he's like, oh, he talks to her, and he says he's too nervous to talk during one of those things. He ends up going home with her, doing the dirty, and then he finds out a little bit about her when she's trying to enter a password. And he's like, what are you doing? And as she's like, well, this persona account only lets you get 3 guesses. I want to figure out why my daughter could have killed herself. Is it my fault? Is it something? And she has this like insane
List of like potential options.
And I was sitting there just knowing what I know. I'm like, no, the passwords can be case sensitive. Don't give up on that password. What if the O was capitalized? You know, it's just too many. The probability is literally impossible to get that. And for a second, I thought the guy sitting in the bed was like, did you try paper glue 7? And she was gonna be like, paper glue 7. He's like, haha, it's me, your daughter, the whole time. Like, no.
I thought she was gonna log in and like see pictures of him.
Oh, please.
See, I thought not at that point, but right after, I thought that was a flashback, and that was his motivation for the entire event that unfolded after that, like the entire kidnapping of the employee and all that. So I thought that was what he was trying to get out of Billy Bauer that whole time.
I don't really take Ubers or taxis or stuff, and I don't know. Do you give them the time of day if they go to talk to you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Because they can rate you.
They can what?
They can rate you.
Okay, so
okay.
I do a weird thing when I'm in an Uber or a taxi
Jeff,
or whatever.
no, you don't do weird stuff.
That actually I took as a little bit of bad writing. Don't crucify me. Was that
pitchforks?
Not only did he not look up, but when the Uber driver said, "Hey, we're gonna take a different route," I would have been like, okay, sure, but then I would have pulled out my phone and had my GPS up to see where he was going.
I actually used to do that all the
I do
time
that
anyway.
every time I'm in an Uber. I
Yeah.
pull the GPS up
Yep.
and make sure.
Just because you don't want to die, right? It's just
Yeah.
that defense don't die.
Because I don't want to die, and I also don't want to make sure he's not taking me some like weird way and charging me extra money.
Okay, so let's take off half a point then, 9.5. When he's driving, right, he goes under this loud underpass, and the guy is in his phone. But I guess to mildly defend that one, like the app is supposed to be all encompassing, like he's just like glued to it.
Well, and then we later find out that he's actually doing something for his boss, and he's an intern at this huge company. He's probably like really engrossed with like making.
Yeah,
sure
he's
this
doing
happens.
work, right?
Yeah.
So he's underneath the underpass, and there's another car there. And I'm gonna ask a couple questions right now, and hopefully you guys can help me out with it.
Okay.
So, knowing what I know now about the end of the episode with Chris, it's not Kevin, right? It's Chris. Kevin, Chris. When Chris pulls the gun and he's like, "Get out," and all that stuff, he left the car behind. So his whole plan was to essentially die, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't really care if they find the other car. Yeah, because I'm kind of like, well, you're gonna get caught.
This was like a one-way type of mission.
In a way, right? Like he freaked out when he saw the police. So
Well, because he wanted to accomplish something.
he didn't want to get
before
caught
he
before
died.
he's accomplished.
And
Right?
also, I have a feeling that he was switching cars because he didn't want to get tracked by his like taxi
App or
company.
something, yeah.
However, I mean, you saw how they were listening in and stuff later, but so that was a smart move and just get the original getaway. You know?
And here, I'm going to throw this out there. Here's what I appreciate when they don't do bad writing and things aren't just randomly happening. It's all purposeful. So the guy has never kidnapped anyone, probably has never fired that gun ever. So he's like, put the zip tie thing on. And he's like, no, use your mouth and do all these things, right? And he's like, I'll shoot you in the face if you don't do it. And the kid's like, and he pulls the thing, right? And of course, he doesn't think to take the kid's phone because he's not a professional anything.
Yeah.
So, and then he's like freaking out because now he's manic. So he's just like, yeah, and he goes like, oh no, I'm an intern. And then he was, what?
It just broke everything because he
His whole
could
plan.
never do this again. This was his one shot.
Yeah, he's like, that would be my luck. I'm going to snap at the end of this. Someone's going to say like, you know, that white shirt with the red sleeves.
The main character reminded me a lot of you.
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah.
honest.
Because he's, how could, no, he's like banging the gun and the kid's like, what do I do? He goes for the phone.
Yeah.
And of course he's got his hands like this. So he drops and he's like, ah, and he doesn't want to get seen. So he doesn't go for it again. And the guy's like, just get out of the car. I'll make this work. Puts the bag in. He's like, please, I'm claustrophobic. Don't do this. He's screaming. So he knows he's going to scream the whole time. He can't risk that. Fine. Sit in the back.
Well, I don't think
Shut
it was
up.
even that because when he closed the trunk, you really couldn't hear him. But it's just we later find out there's like this human side to him where he doesn't really want to be doing this, and that level of frustration that he expresses too initially after being so timid and quiet up until that point, it's.
I mean, I could tell that about his character pretty early on.
He's given
I knew that
really
even when he
looks like-
originally kidnapped the intern, I'm like, okay, he's like never gonna hurt this guy. You know, he's trying to accomplish a greater goal.
But once he gets him going, when the kid's like, I'm claustrophobic, everything means something, right? They didn't give you anything that didn't mean something in that whole episode. Everything meant something. So he puts the bag over his head, and he's like, don't do this, I'm claustrophobic, which, he can't see where he's going, and he's claustrophobic, he's going to throw up. So as he's banging around, keep your head down, the police seeing him with a thing over their head. A horrible show, like a CW Flash show, would be like, they're probably cosplaying.
I thought this was gonna happen. I'm like, no, please.
And when they're like, no, we literally are police, like, what else are we doing? We're getting gas right now. We might as well just pass them just
take
to
a
see what
look.
happens.
I thought for a second they were just gonna be like, oh, it's probably.
Yeah, but
Just
exactly.
let him-
Yeah.
Right, and that would have been awful
Yeah.
if that happened. So they end up chasing them. They do some police work, and the car's acting funky. They're like, oh, no one's going to make a left over here. No one. So they know, they follow it. They turn the lights on. Let me just pull them over. It's the UK, different type of laws and stuff. Pull them over. They want to see, and they know he's going to run. They feel it. She's like,
Oh, yeah.
she's like, get ready. I'm going to put my foot out. They did the cowboy scene.
That was so cool.
It
I
was.
love that scene.
And then the guy, he freaks out. He's just like, no. He's in an Uber car, a 4-cylinder, turns into like a cornfield.
They just like suck the leg back in, close the door, and
Yeah.
done it.
So he
Yeah.
turns into a cornfield, and the car just like fails.
Yeah.
Right? Like.
Which again, good writing because in any other thing, the car would have kept going for 20 minutes, and they would have been chasing him.
Yeah.
But no, it hit too many like rocks or cows or whatever, and just shut off.
Car off. So in the cornfield, right? The police start approaching, and then boom, he busts out a gun. And he's like, oh, I'll blow this face off if you come anywhere closer. Obviously, in the UK, the regular police don't have firearms. And it's kind of like a different play on other things as well, too, begging certain questions, where that situation could have either escalated really bad or de-escalated had the officers just been armed in the first place. So they have to been called off for everything. Once again, this man is not a professional anything, doesn't ask for the cops' radios. I know this is making me sound insane, but doesn't ask for the cops' radios, doesn't say, hey, give me your phones and radios. You can't contact anyone. I need to do what I need to do.
I mean, here's a weird little aside, but do you think during the writing of this, they decided that this episode should take place within the UK because if it was in America, the cops would have had guns and then they would have had to write around that?
Probably, and they were smart for doing it.
Yeah, that's super smart.
Yeah, it's planning. So he has a gun, which causes them to get back, but then they call him for backup. They call in the news crews, and this turns what he wanted to do. It enhances it because now that he had an intern captured. He's like, how am I going to call the CEO?
Well, and also if you look at like the escalation of the situation, it's like in line with the episode too. Like it's the same thing that he's trying to eradicate, like taking something like really horrible, like he lost his fiance, like ultimately, and kind of like publicizing it in a way where people are so detached from what's happening, and just watching that, like, and then when you zoom back in, like all like the little bits and pieces of like the awkwardness and like the phone calls. I love when he completely decimates the negotiator.
He's just like, F off. I don't want to see you 30 seconds or I kill this kid. He's like, I can still see you. He's like, who's got the keys?
And he went through the whole thing of what the negotiator was going to do. And the guy's just like, ugh.
And I think like initially, I can't remember when he said it. I think it was the negotiator, like towards the beginning when he first shows up. They kind of surmise that what did they call him? High intellect, low income, very angry people. And I just thought that was so funny. Too far.
All right, so I think that I am the smartest dumb guy. And people down below help me out. I don't remember the saying for everything else. That's why I'm the smartest dumb guy. But it's either a playwright or a very famous one. I think I've said this before, but his rule of writing or telling a story in a play, and this was a literal interpretation of it, if a gun appears in Act 1, you need to make sure that gun fires before the final act. It's just a writing device to say, hey, if you show the audience something, it has to be important before the curtain closes. And this one was literally a gun, and it fired before the final act. So you saw something important, we knew it was threatening, and then when they try to red herring us with like, oh, it's fake, and then everyone starts approaching, he's like, boom, not fake. Everyone freaks out. Mm-hmm. Another layer of tension. You're just like, okay, so this just went from dark comedy back into darkness, like something else is going on.
I had a moment of, they had the whole like gun squad there at one point, but they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, they could have just like sniped them like 6 times by now. But then when they had the constable show up, that was what she was, right? Mm-hmm. She showed up and she said like, you guys aren't authorized to fire yet, which they knew. So I was like, oh, that's why.
Yes.
They didn't get the okay yet.
Because, like a normal thing, it's like, look, what happened a couple of weeks ago?
Some sort of incident.
Something crazy.
And they needed to confirm like a clear shot.
He wanted to get Billy Bauer on the phone for some reason, and he alluded to something with his fiance. And then as they're connected, you start, as a viewer, you start to learn so many things in such a fair way. You find out that everything on his profile is he had a fiance, he hasn't been using it. Such a great way to give us things. You're not using exposition or forced exposition to show a character's not like, oh man, he's probably upset because his fiance died and that's why he kidnapped it. Makes sense. That's why he would want to call Billy Bauer.
Those 2 kids get their bikes back?
There's no way they got those bikes back.
Okay.
It got hit by a street sweeper and they're just thrown into the...
They got like brains all over it.
Oh, poor Eugene.
If anyone gets that reference.
You're talking about how they acquired all that information about him?
Yeah. So,
cut back to California, where like Smithereens offices or whatever, the VP, whoever she was.
The COO.
They're pulling up information on him faster than the police. They're piecing it together faster than the police.
But they were also missing a big chunk because he hadn't used his social media in so long.
Yeah.
They're like, oh no, we don't know what he's currently thinking.
Mm-hmm. And that was like, in some ways, in another world maybe, that would be too convenient. Like, well, let me just find out everything about this person just by pulling up a profile. But like, that's probably how they would go about it now if you're investigating somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're allowed to do that though, because that's like
But it's
privacy
public.
violations.
Oh.
Well, the way that they
Facebook.
the way that they logged into his account and like went through his like more personal stuff
Yeah.
wouldn't be allowed.
I'm gonna say that was a great plot device because he showed them, hey, you can get in, or I'm sorry, they showed us that hey, we can get into anyone's profile. And the mom that he had sex with in the beginning, her biggest problem was she couldn't get into the profile, privacy issues. But on a whim, when life is in danger, they can quickly do anything they want.
And still to this point, I was thinking he's doing this all for that girl.
Which is good on you. You know, like that kind of.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that. It's
it
like that
came back.
totally makes sense. now
Because you
that
think it's a
mentioned
throwaway character, right? So as things get worse and worse, and they fire the first confirmed shot, and the sniper is like a level 1 sniper, and he's like, I didn't buy the steady scope DLC, or he was holding his breath for too long. He's like, damn it! You know, he misses the shot, hits him in the arm. I was thinking for a moment, I'm gonna take one micro point away. How come there's no one like crawling through the cornfield?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
You know, whatever. But
Sneaking up to the car.
my suspension of disbelief was so high that stuff didn't even cross my mind. Game of Thrones. As everything wraps up, he's talking to Billy Bauer. When we saw, I don't remember his name. I'm
Topher
sorry.
Grace.
Topher Grace.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm sure people are going to be like,
It's fucking Venom.
But I really thought
I wouldn't recognize Topher Grace. I don't
Okay,
know who
all
are
right.
you talking about?
Topher Grace is Billy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's Topher Grace.
Okay.
I don't even know how to else to explain it.
Sure. What else is
But
Topher
he's
Grace
sitting
in?
there.
That 70 show.
That 70 show, Venom.
Okay.
Okay. But I thought it was so funny that going back to like a dark comedy where I was telling Jeff this. Imagine you're the CEO of a company. You have so much stress and you're basically on a vacation. Just a quick, you know what? I have so many things to deal with my company. Let me just get away for a bit. You're the COO. What are you going to do? Sell the company? No. You go away, you take some silence. You're sitting there in peace, right? No one can find you. You're in serenity now. Out of nowhere, just some random Gorbo shows up like, you don't hear it still. You're still at peace. Home walks in front of you, and they're like, don't look at me right now. Excuse me? The most random problem. Yeah, sir, I know you're on vacation, but one of our interns was captured at gunpoint, and they're going to get murdered unless the guy talks to you. Fuck! Amazing. You know, like, what else can you do?
that. Yeah.
What, like, that's the most random
Yeah.
thing. And
His character was amazing. It was probably one of my favorite like TV characters, period.
He was my favorite character in the episode, for sure.
and he's on the satellite phone talking to them, and they're like, sir, don't talk to him. Don't do it. We don't recommend you talk to him. And eventually he does, and they give him the worst advice. I feel where you are coming from. That sorks to be you.
And then he's like, I know you hear me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
obviously you hear me.
Yeah, and he's like, just talk like a person.
Because he was so real person.
Yeah.
That's his thing. Like you could be like, I can see exactly what that guy means right now. 'Cause
Yeah.
there was no need for any kind of suspension of disbelief. Because you're just like, this guy is real. He's just gonna say what he's got to say, and that's it.
Especially because they told you that Chris was high IQ. He talked down to the negotiator. I know exactly what you're going to do. Get away from me. And to give someone talking points like it's a therapy situation, it's not going to work. It's not going to go over.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think Billy's empathy was true empathy?
You are right. We will come back to that.
Okay.
But we'll talk a little bit about it where when you first watch it, when he's talking to him, I feel like you genuinely feel like he's listening and he wants the best. He's saying, hey, man, don't kill yourself. Don't do this. Let him go.
Yeah, I did think it was genuine, but he goes into his own spiel and he acts kind of in a selfish way when this guy is
It's a little narcissistic.
yeah, and it's so like believable in that moment too.
Yeah, I think he was trying to relate to him in whatever way he possibly could.
Yeah.
And I mean, he also kind of, he flat out said, he's like, it's your fault that happened. Like, he was very real with them, too. And he wasn't trying to be like, oh, I'm sorry, like, that was our company's fault. It's like,
Yeah.
no, like, you did that. You killed your fiance. That's it.
Yeah, and then he's basically telling Jaden, I'm going to let you go, but I don't want to be here anymore. He's basically telling him, I'm going to kill myself. Showed him that the gun was real, called everyone off, and Jaden, in still a dark comedy way, It was like, hey, look, man, I'm sorry I kidnapped you. It's all good, man. You know, like, whatever. You know, just cool. Just don't kill yourself.
Yeah, because by that point, when you saw him on the phone, you saw Jaden, like, really empathizing with him at that point and being like, oh, wow, like, this guy's got, like, a messed up backstory.
Yeah.
And he's like, I actually feel bad for my kidnapper right now.
Don't kill yourself. He's pleading with him. And when he's still on the phone, I think he's still on the phone with Billy during the whole thing. He sees the moment where the gun's down. He's looked at the gun for a while, waiting for a moment. And this was a different moment where, hey, if I get this gun, everything changes and I could stop him from killing himself. You know, the smallest character, an intern, can stop the biggest thing right now, someone killing themselves, right? In the grand scheme of at Smithereens, he's an intern. He's not important. But in that moment, he was the most important character. So he wants to kill himself, and they go and going back to concept, like, they're struggling. You have the shot, take it now. That is such a surreal moment as the viewer. You're watching, like, well, the guy wants to die, so his head's up. He doesn't care that he's struggling. If he gets the gun, he's going to blow his brains out, and the sniper's going to take the shot no matter what. It's a win-win for him. The only one that's going to lose right now is Jaden. He's like, don't blow the guy's brains out in front of me, please.
Yeah.
The guy was at least going to let me leave before he does it.
Yeah.
And they're like, boom, we did it. We saved you, hero. And he's got, like, his brains on my face.
Well, we don't know.
Oh my God! I mean, you are right because the sniper missed the first shot, so he's been holding his breath this whole time.
But so, okay, I'm just gonna get like super douchey here. But
That's my job.
All right, can I be the douchebag for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
The gross hat.
Yeah.
It's very sweaty.
But that's I would say that's one of the points that they were trying to illustrate in the episode where we don't see his death because it's about the spectacle. Throughout the whole episode, it's just a spectacle, something to capture your attention. No one really cares about the people or persons involved.
You think they just care about the moment? That's why they were
like,
live
just,
streaming
like,
it. And
This moment is for me to experience. I don't care about your experience. I'm experiencing this right now.
Well, I think that's a good time to go back to what you said before about Billy. Was it true empathy? So in that moment afterwards, after you hear the shot and it shows the credits and some things happening at the end, it shows everyone gets a message, right, that says this was breaking news. I think you said it right. I think you said it, that how ironic that he hated that everyone was always on their phones because it cost his fiance their life because of the mistake he made, but his actions forced everyone in a moment to look at their phones and become distracted. Literally, a guy looked at it while he was driving and got honked at. So his actions still made everything worse. Like, in that moment, he created the thing he hated the most happened. And even Billy Bauer at the end, after everything's said and done with, what does he do? He goes right back to being in the moment. He just goes back to, I'm just going to do what I want to do. I don't really care that it happened.
Yeah, and you could argue, like, well, what else is he going to do? He tried to speak to him. He tried to talk him down. But I think that's just like sociopathic tendencies. Just, okay, I'm going to try to manipulate this person to elicit the reaction that I want, and then just go back to what you're doing.
I could feel like, if I'm being loose about it, still just give it a perfect score, 10 out of 10 for what I was watching. So well written. All the characters made decisions that you would expect someone in that situation to make. You know, the head of a company, a major company that controls the world, you would expect to be a blind sociopath or narcissistic. You would expect the underlings to be the same ruthless level as well too. You'd expect the police to be incompetent / just get the job done, but here's some red tape. You'd expect a captor to get a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, just the way everything was. And then the small little wrap up, when Billy asks, is there anything I could do? He just asks, take care of this one mother. All she wants is information. You can't get life back. Her daughter can never come back, but at least let her close this door. At least let her look at the account and kind of see if there's any message in there. And
did you guys forget about that the whole time? Like, did you forget about that?
Yeah, you want to know why? For the most part, yeah. Like,
that was in the back of my mind the entire time. I'm like,
because you're thinking of why?
Because I thought that was going to be the conversation. I was like, he's going to call him and he's going to be like, hey man, I need this password.
The only reason I said no, I'm sorry. The only reason that wasn't in my mind is because I remember she was trying to log into a Persona account, and
I thought that Persona was the name of the Facebook or whatever it was of
So
Smithereen
what you're
company.
saying is your blind stupidity made you the smartest dumb guy because you thought Persona was Smithereen.
Well, doesn't like Facebook own Instagram or something?
No, it's like at that point it was kind of like Facebook and MySpace was two separate entities, and he's like, "Of course I know other CEO
I mean,
guys."
I knew that at the end, but I
Yeah.
didn't know they were separate entities at the beginning.
You're like, "Yeah, I remember that."
yeah.
And at the end when she's like typing in the password and then she hits the space bar and it's like the sound of like the gun going off. Maybe it is like closure because she's getting closure. Maybe he's getting closure.
You guys have anything else for us?
No, really enjoyed it. But don't know if I give it a 10 out of 10. But again, I don't like to rate things. Maybe a 9.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I was happy to see some return to dark humor.
Yes.
In this episode.
And for all of our fans out there, get ready. This next episode is gonna be good. We'll see you in the next one.